9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys! Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that it is already January 19th. It's been, I haven't seen you since November. We took a little bit of a break with the holidays upon us, and then everything started getting crazy. So I hope that you all had a beautiful holiday. I know it wasn't normal. I think we kind of have learned to appreciate some really interesting things with everything that we're all going through this year. And so I certainly hope that 2021 brings great success and a whole lot of peace and love to all of you. We are kicking off the new year with all kinds of fun things. We have our speaker tonight. We're also working on, I think for February, and I'll be confirming that time and date, we're going to be having a guest who is an Academy Award winning producer. He's going to come on and we're going to talk at length about his path and his journey. And beyond that, lots of different people that we can bring in and start having these conversations again. So look for the CFAA Film Talk at least once a month. And again, if you have ideas or if you have connections to people that represent a certain area of the industry and you know that our Sacramento or Northern California audience would be interested in hearing about them, please get a hold of me. You can email us info@capitalfilmarts.com. I'm sorry, .org. And our website again, capitalfilmarts.org, will put you in contact with us and show you everything that we're doing. We are having our every fourth Thursday screenwriter lab. That has been, God bless these guys, that has been going on since the beginning of the pandemic. They have not taken a break and not dropped a beat. So I'm so proud of the work that they continue to do. And we've got other things that we're in the works with, some actors workshops and different even longer term workshops for filmmakers. So again, lots of exciting things happening. Tonight, we're talking to a good friend and somebody who I've followed his journey, and it's really been motivating and been very inspiring to me to see that he is, somebody who started off with a skill and a passion. He pursued it in all these typical ways, and like many people, held on to the contract work or the day work while he tried to pursue his passion separately. And when you do that, and when you work hard, and when you truly have the ability to find that niche and find your place, then success is inevitable. And Matt Salvo, who's our guest tonight, is somebody that has found that success. He's found his niche, and he's now really looking to expand and explode in ways that I think we'll all be very, very proud of, that he's coming from this region and working with all of our local talent as well. So with no further ado, I've got a quick video we're going to share, and then Matt's going to join us, and we can get into this conversation with him. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming. Again, the Capital Film Arts Alliance, we are here for you. We are looking to build filmmaking in Northern California and the Sacramento region specifically, and we hope that you are a part of it. So, all right, let's check that video out. There we are. Why is there no audio? I don't know why we didn't have any audio on that. That was really...
Oh, it was my best song ever, too. Oh.
Damn it.
It's fine.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Salvo.
Hey, Lori, thanks for having me. And hi, everybody out there online. I can't see your comments or I don't know who's watching, but hi anyway.
We're going to feed those in. You've got quite a bit of people that are on board and checking in to say hi. So we definitely want to bring in any of their questions, and we appreciate everybody watching. If you haven't worked with Matt yet, you're going to want to. And if you have, you know that he is just the real deal. He's genuine. He's talented. I can talk to him forever about what he's doing with his business, but I want him to share. And I think one of the best ways to get started is really kind of from the beginning. What is it that was the motivation? What was the spark that made you realize that you could do this for a living, that you wanted to do this for a living? And where has that taken you?
Sure. Well, hey, thanks for the compliments too. And I really do enjoy our talks. Like, I mean, it's nice talking to people who, think like you, right? And it's like we both had such great ideas on how we could expand the community. And I feel what you're doing with CFAA is just super top notch. So anyway,
Thank you.
I won't go too far back into the past, but I'll definitely talk a little bit about some of that spark, and then what happens when you can follow it and what happens when you don't, maybe. Um, for me, I had a day job, and it was at the California Farm Bureau Federation. Really great people, and but I was a creative specialist, and that was like I would go around the state and take pictures and video about where our food comes from, and visit farmers and restaurants and cool places. But when you go to a day job and you're a creative person, and this could be like any industry or any um, career that you might choose, you might get stuck with some people that are just fine. And I'm not saying the people at Farm Bureau were like this, but there was a mentality that I found that like, oh wait, yeah, you show up, you do a good job at your work, and then you go home and you have extracurricular activities, and then you do it all again the next day.
Right.
And so to me, that was super cool because I was looking for stability for a while, and I was looking to just, really become a good photographer and videographer. But I was finding myself like reading photography and video books after work. I didn't have all the extracurricular activities that my coworkers did. I didn't watch TV or movies that much, and I was just very engulfed in becoming better. And then I found that like, if you kind of mess up the status quo at work and you try to succeed a little too fast for some people's liking, it could create a little flurry in the workplace environment, and now people don't like you as much maybe. And I don't know if that was the case for me. I hope it wasn't, but I was just finding myself that work was not enough anymore. And that's kind of where I was getting with this, is just like I found that I had just wanted to work more hours, but obviously they don't want to pay me for like the overtime and all this stuff. And so for me, it was just about like, okay, well, if I think I can do it, what are the next steps? I am a risk taker, but very calculated. And so it took about 2 years. Once I made up my mind, I started making these short films on the side, and I got bit by the bug, and I was like, wow, we're doing really well. And I know a lot of the viewers knew about the like Project Greenlight things that I did, where basically you make a 3-minute short film, and you enter it into HBO, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's Project Greenlight. And we did like super well, and it was just like we got so much publicity and PR, and I was like, man, I'm just like this little guy and I'm just like trying to find a fun hobby or do something, and everyone's like coming up to me like, oh Matt, when are you gonna make another thing? When are you gonna do that? And then I felt almost pressured to quit my job. I mean, that's kind of what it took. And I, when you have a bunch of local people saying like, you could really do this, well, I started believing them, and I was like, okay, I am. And so anyway, go. I'll stop from there. But
Wow, wow. So that was, I think, about the time that I first became aware of you. I can't remember, but what was the process like? Because honestly, I was a freak fan for Project Greenland. I loved that. I loved the concept. Um, I wanted to produce it because I kept thinking of all these different things that I could do that would make it even better. But how far did you get in that competition, and what was your experience specifically with, you know, any input that you got on your film or any connections that you made through that?
yeah, well, so we didn't win, obviously, or else I'd be a Hollywood movie director. But that actually wasn't really the goal for me. It was just to sell an idea in a short amount of time, and I thought that 3 minute mark was cool because it seems to be at people's attention spans. But um, I so out of like 24,000 entries, we made top 200, and then I believe we got to top 50, but then got X'd out after the top 20 round came in. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good though. I mean, that's an
Yeah,
for something the first time that you'd done it, right?
oh yeah, and I was a huge fan of the show too. But really, what happened from that is I don't know if really people liked the little film or they just voted for it because it looked cool. It had like a Lamborghini or something in it. But to me, it was just enough validation to be like, all right. And I picked up a couple clients through like some local news stations I was on, and then everyone just kind of knew, like it was sort of just validated other people's thoughts too, because no one wants to be the first person to invest in a new guy, right? Like, and so I think once enough people saw that the money was coming in a little bit here and there, and I was like, okay, so I started building that up and building it up. But really, Salvo Image wasn't really even formed until like 5 years ago, and it was more of like I needed to do this and to become an actual business rather than just a freelancer, because like I didn't want to like lose my house if some lawsuit happened or whatever, and I didn't want to be completely liable for something weird happening. Anyways, it was just like, okay, Matt, get structured and figure out, okay, this is what you're gonna do. Now do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know?
And now you were doing photography and you were doing video work. I mean, filmmaking.
Yeah.
What was your what was your passion? Was it in photography and then it evolved, or how did you have a preference between the two?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So I didn't really know what my passion was. I thought that I could do a lot of things okay, and I was like, well, at this point, I wanted to just make some money so I can survive and just live a little bit. Not even do well. That wasn't a goal. I just wanted to make the mortgage payment and then, be okay. So I was like, I needed to find a niche. And I had a great mentor at the time, and I also got a great business coach. And then on top of that, I joined this Sacramento Small Business Development Center, the SBDC. And so with those three things, they're all like, yeah, we see your passion, you're doing okay, that's great, but you got to find a niche. And I expressed that to them, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, am I going to be a food photographer? Am I going to be interested in like audio engineering or like just cinematography or like a DP or something? And
That's
I
right.
was talking to my
Right, you're doing everything.
at that point, yeah, 100%. Or maybe like I would have a friend help me here and there, but that was it. So I took a trip to Vegas, and I had no money, um, and I was like, well, the first 4 months of my business ownership was incredibly stressful, and I don't think I made more than like 6,000 in that 6 months, to be honest. Which, it's not a lot of money, but I knew that things were coming in. It was just being put on hold because of like weather or like something. And so I'm like, okay, but it's still not enough. And I'm charging $300 a photo shoot. I just can't pay the bills with that. So I took a trip to Vegas. I went to, it's called WPPI. It was a wedding professional photography conference. And I took that because a good friend of mine was going to it and speaking. And I was like, oh, I'll go see her, but then also learn some stuff from these top world-renowned wedding photographers. I mean, maybe I'm going to be a wedding photographer. Who knows? I mean, I had shot like 20 weddings maybe prior to that, but I don't know if that was going to be like my all-in-one, like saving grace. And so I went and I was in my hotel room and I took this like little monorail thing to the Mandalay Bay or no, some other place where it was at. And then I went to this one class and this one gentleman was talking and it was more of like a portfolio review. Like he was just talking about people's pictures. Then he'd talk about his, and he talks about how much money he makes, and I was like, so, okay, this guy's charging like $30,000 to $40,000 a wedding. I'm charging like maybe 1,500 or 2,000 at the time. I don't really recall. And I'm looking at his pictures. I'm looking at mine. And I'm like, there's not much difference. How does this guy get this crazy clientele? And then he just kind of told you at the end of this 2-hour session, and he goes, you just got to be the best one. You got to be the best in your field and believe it, even when you're not the best, but believe it anyway, because if you're always trying to stay hungry and trying to learn how to pose people a certain way and try to learn the latest lighting technique or the audio or something, you're going to eventually work and be one of the best. What do they say? After 10,000 hours, you're one of the best in your field or something like that. Mm-hmm. So you just keep going at it. And I was like, man, well, if that guy can do it, like I can do it. I mean, and his family and home situation is very similar to mine. He had a brand new baby. He has bills to pay. And I'm like, this dude is doing all right for himself. And now he's speaking in front of this conference. And so I was like, okay. And then I was like, he is such a brave guy, like to admit all his flaws and, things that he really tried and failed at on stage. I'm like, he's a brave guy that he went out and took that plunge. And I was like, that's it. I make films for the brave. And it was just like this awe-inspiring moment. I actually didn't go to another class in Vegas the entire time I was there. I was so blown away by just having this realization that that's what I do. I think brave people are entrepreneurs, other business owners, people who took a really solid risk and they're doing what it takes to succeed. And if they don't get their message out there and their face out there in a cinematic and beautiful way, like with Salvo Image, then it's like, that it's like advertising, but in a really pretty way that people want to watch,
It also was extremely timely because everything in our lives have shifted so completely to digital, and the need for people to be able to tell their story and to share their messages and to reach out throughout so many different platforms has erupted, which, again, you're creating this product. Now the need is there because everybody and their brother who, barely even have a Facebook page, even corporations, it took them a while, even big corporations, to figure out what to do with this beast. Here's the internet. What does it mean to me? How's my business going to be represented? And so I think that your timing was ideal because you were building the right business while the need was building at the same time. And luckily, and you can continue to tell that story because it's like you found a perfect storm of the kind of client that you can help. I'm imagining that your background, and your original job couldn't have hurt, that. So tell us a little bit about that, because that seems like that's
Yeah.
where your niche is going. I'm not saying that you're buried in that rut, dude, at all. I think
Yeah.
you can take it 100 different places, but it's like commercials versus narrative films, and how much money can be made in each one of those environments, but at very different times and in very different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, let me think back. You said something earlier. Okay, yeah, to kind of tell a more complete story with your questions. The farmers were, I have to say, the reason for my work ethic, I think. Here, I love going out during the early mornings or late afternoons when the sun is golden, just like anybody who likes to shoot anything. It's the best time of day.
Yeah.
And that's always the time of day where they're the most stressed out, because they're up at the crack of dawn doing their thing. Like, they have labor issues, they have overregulation, they have all these things.
Yeah.
And I just hear all the complaints, right? And so I just kind of took that in my head. I was like, man, these poor freaking guys, like, and women. And I was like, it feels like the world is kind of against them as what I just say, a business owner, not even a farmer, but just a business owner. There's a lot of weird stuff that you have to learn and know, and it's kind of trial by fire unless you have a family member or a friend going through it. At least it's trial by fire with me on a couple of things, but I learned it from them, and because it was like, wow, they have to deal with so much, and all I have to do is make a little 3-minute video. And when I started putting it into that perspective, I'm like, I don't have to manage 7,000 heads of cattle. I don't have to worry about my wine grapes drying up because of a drought. I have it so lucky. Therefore, I should only be successful. And that's kind of the mentality I chose to take with it. Because really, if you do look at all the minute pressures and things always coming at me, it's easy to get in my head and get, sad or angry or upset about it. But at the same time, I'm like, look what I get to do. I get to go and meet amazing people of all walks of life. And I get to tell their story in a way that I don't really think a lot of other people could. I don't think that I'm like, obviously the most qualified or the most talented, but like you said, it was the perfect storm where I had all those years of experience interacting with all the professional types of people, learning all different walks of life, and then with that knowledge, being able to apply it at just the right time. But honestly, it took a lot of people believing in me. And that is kind of like those first 3 or 4 clients that I had in 2016. I like owe the world to, I feel like, and I will never raise my prices on them. I will never, secretly like gouge them and, say, oh, it actually cost this much or whatever. It's like, thank you. You saved my life. You put food on the table for my daughter, and, I'm grateful. And so if you keep passing that through, and it seems like word gets around that you're more of a nice guy rather than a pushover. And I think that's always kind of the battle I was dealing with, is like, oh, Matt will cut a deal, Matt will do this. And I was so tired of being the cheap guy in town. And that's not the legacy I wanted to leave. I just wanted to leave like a quality impression like I got from the people I interview.
Yeah. And I think what comes across in talking to you is certainly you're not, an overbearing blowhard that can only talk about yourself. You're interested in the greater good of how can you solve the client's problem? How can you use your skills to help them, solve their problems? And that, I think, as soon as you have a client in front of you that feels that truly, you got a client for life, because truly that is, what people want to work with. That's what people want on their team. And I have no doubt that that's part of what that, and just your abilities, but more importantly, your eye to how you can continue to improve. Because I think that that's really critical too, is whatever we're doing and whatever skills all of you have in your own little silos or working together, you should always be looking to improve. There is always something that you can learn from. And I think that the best gift a filmmaker can give themselves is the question of, what would I have done differently? And then really explore that. And granted, we can't all produce an Academy Award winning film, but as you progress in your skills, it's really important to continue to see where you can grow and how you can grow it. And your clients benefit from that. And I have no doubt that that's part of what you bring to the table and who you're dealing with. I want you to talk a little bit just about the kind of content that you are creating, because we're talking about it in circles and not really showing,
Sure.
What are you producing right now that's keeping bread and butter on your table,
Yeah, sure. Well, so in the moment, I guess, of let's see, it's been so weird, Lori, like this whole 2020, and then we've had to do a complete shift on the content we create. It's not my ideal thing that I want to be making, all the stuff about COVID. And the reason for that is just because, it's a short life. Once you make a video, it's out there forever. And I hate making these COVID videos, even though that's what's keeping the money coming in, because it's such a short time in the human history's life, And so, like, yes, it sucks right now that we're all going through this, and but it's like, man, then it's like I have to redo the whole thing in 3 years from now when no one's wearing masks or whatever. I mean, if that's the case, I don't know, but that's kind of how I look at it. Is like, this stuff is super dated. Maybe that means more income next year because I have to redo the videos. That's a positive way of looking at it. But no, what I'm creating right now, I'm fortunate enough to finally be at a point where I get to choose who I get to work with in terms of like the industries. And so all my agricultural stuff, I have about 30 or so clients throughout the year, all different types of commodities. That always happens like during the spring to even like fall months. And then so we used to make money at Salvo Image doing big event coverage during the winter months. But with COVID and all that stuff, we switched to now doing more podcasts, more like live streaming stuff. We found a way here at the studio to patch people in from all different parts of the world and have them be included in filming conversations. So we handle like annual meetings and stuff that normally would be like a conference for a company. They just can now do remotely through the studio. So yeah, podcasts, a lot of like Spotify, Pandora ads, like audio stuff like that. Things to where we can have small crew members and still create like a decent production with it. And then we picked up some real estate people, and then a senior home living, what do you call it, big community throughout the U.S. And so, yeah, it's cool. Like, it's very diverse right now, but I'm just thankful.
I just think that it's like an unlimited pool. Just the outreach is more anything. The referrals that you get from the clients that you're already working for are gold, because when they do business, and that the business development environment, the work that you're doing with that, the Small Business Development Center, that's got to be a whole nother way. Again, those of you who are working in a business environment and not networking, shame on you, because everything that we do in business is built on networking. And especially if you're looking at, hey, if somebody who has the same, you're not going to create the same content for two competing farmers or whatever the case may be, agriculture corporations, but they are going to have the same needs. And your understanding of that is going to win you that contract, because you have the understanding of what their business needs are, and you've proven yourself through this person that they respect. So it's like knocking down the dominoes, once you start with one, I think realistically it should be, just tink, 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 tink. Right. So I totally see that happening. And I think the key is realizing that, content creation or filmmaking or whatever you're creating is a business. It should be a business because you should get paid for the work that you're doing, and you should aspire to sharpening your skills to that extent. Otherwise, you're a hobbyist, and that's okay. That's not a problem to make great content, but not dedicate your life to doing that. I'm not saying that it's black or white. There's a whole lot of gray in here too. But I think that what Matt has done is used his creative skills, checked into how that applies to a lot of different businesses, and is kind of, again, knocking down the dominoes as we speak, going from there. Now, you're also, you're working in a creative environment. So
Yeah.
your offices are inside the Media Center,
Mhm.
which is located at 915 Fee Drive. The reason I know that is because I had to commit it to memory, because my very, very, very first film project that I ever did was shot at the Studio Center at the time. And it was something where I had never been on that side of town and didn't know what it was, but I had to give everybody and their brother directions. So the address is forever burned in my memory. And I just thought that was funny that when John opened his business, this is a whole nother level of resource to those of you who are now looking for small studio shoots and recording studio. I mean, there's at Post Effects, the Odin's Creative Lab, Matt Salvo Image. What else do you guys have operating out of that?
We have Jesse. He is doing the brand new audio suite, and so he actually constructed, and he's the engineer of that as well. And so that's where we do all the podcasting, mixing, recording of bands. And then, yeah, like you said, Odin is here, John's here. It's nice because we do a lot of the same kind of thing, but super different and have different approaches to it. And so it's nice being able, like, if I'm having a creative block or something, to just kind of walk downstairs into the diner, have a cup of coffee, and then just kind of start chatting. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, like, why did I think of that? Why, it's like, oh, we could have done this, we could do this. It's like, oh, this is really great to have this back and forth, and we help each other. Whether you go through John or through me or anybody for, like, to rent the studio, it's all the same price. And so that's a thing, because like you said earlier, it is a business. And there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist or a freelancer, but I chose the business route because I needed something to last me until I was about like 65, 70, of like just the constant go. I love being active and just learning new things. And I knew that if I got comfortable and I had a steady job, that this would probably either fizzle out, or I just wouldn't be living it to my fullest extent. And so if you are looking to make a business out of your hobby, and like I said, go into like the business development center or something, I wouldn't have known what to do and how to structure my company and things about, like, certain types of taxes, the different type of corporation you are, when things are due at the most random times of the year, and then all the other things, like, well, just having someone to talk to, saying like, I didn't really like how that client treated me. What could we do to resolve a future potential problem or something? And being in a safe environment to where they could say, well, what would you want out of the conversation? Are you feeling that you guys just didn't have the right type of expectations, or what? And I go, well, I don't know. Like, for example, I got this one client, and he's like, yeah, Matt, just put some pop at the end and just add a little sizzle, and then just add a little sprinkle of that. And I, at first I'm just like, yeah, okay, man, you got it. But then I'm like, I'm here, it's like 2 a.m. on like a Saturday morning. I'm like, what does pop mean? What's a sizzle? Like, I could not figure it out. And then I just finally called him in the morning. I was like this is like that. And I realized that's not me. asking for the right information. Everyone has their different ways of speaking,
Yeah.
but as a business owner, you need to be able to interpret everything and then take what you need for it from that to get the project done. And so I go, well, send me a couple YouTube links that pop and sizzle. And he did. I was like, oh, you mean, oh, you could have just said add a little particle dust here and then put a little, see, I think technical. He doesn't think technical.
They don't speak the same language. The clients don't speak the same language. I spent, almost 30 years working in advertising, and the combination of what we would interpret from the client to have to pass off onto our graphic designers to create an ad was hilarious, because, we would get those kind of instructions. Jazz it up a little,
Yeah, jazz it up a little, that kind of thing.
Pop. So yeah, it's truly, you can't just go nod your head and say yes.
No.
You have to say, show me what you mean. And actually, again, it's the business side of trying to get people to understand, not only are you going to have to pitch it and sell it, you're going to have to facilitate it. You're going to have to wrap it. You're going to have to do the accounting. You're going to have to do the collections, from beginning to end. It's a business. So if you're not prepared to dedicate yourself to building your business and building your brand, then making short films and having fun doing it is a perfect goal. But there's a lot of money on the table, and I think you are finding in the clients that you're now bringing in. And I gotta give props too also. So Matt's one of those filmmakers who he'll do anything to get the shot. Nothing is out of reach.
Yeah.
And not too long ago, in getting some B-roll on his electric skateboard, Matt took a tumble and ended up in the emergency room, and then was in rehab. How many months were you rehabbing from your injuries?
Well, I don't know. Your word is rehab. My word is back to work. Yeah, that was a really
helmet on. He was wearing a helmet. I will say that. He probably wouldn't be talking to us today if he wasn't.
Geez, that was a dark time, I have to say, and I want you all to just kind of picture this for a moment. We were doing really well at Salvo Image last year. Actually, just a few days ago from last year, we had our big grand opening party here at the studio. We had a DeLorean and fog machines, and there's no shade where I'm at, as they say. But then when the pandemic hit in March, so like I said, we were doing big event coverage, and everything got canceled, just like everybody else, right? Like everyone's jobs got canceled, places were shutting down. And I was watching the news, and I was just like, well, how does this affect me like everyone else? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, I can still shoot with my telephoto lens and get the picture. I'm not even worried about this COVID thing. And but then April hit, and then people were asking for their deposits back. And I was like, I didn't have that money. That party was expensive. And so so I took out a really large loan, and I paid everyone back. And I was just crossing my fingers that, this whole thing would be gone in 3 weeks like they said it would, and I could pay back that loan and everything's dandy. And then, as you know, that didn't happen, and now I had a really huge loan payment and a house payment and everything. I depleted all my savings, and I was like, well, I'm going to lose it all. But at least I had a really good run, and I'm just going to go, just tail between the legs and post this maybe in like June that, Salvo Image is scaling back or something. But in May, we started getting all the phone calls back, and people were hiring us back, and the money started coming in again. Not as much by any means, but like livable. I was able to pay back my mortgage. I was able to pay back the loan. Um, but then in July, I was riding my one wheel. This was with a brand new client, by the way. Um, and we are just about done with the photo shoot. It's about healthy, active living in Natomas. And I was leading a bunch of kids from one section to the other. They're all on their bikes and stuff. And I'm cruising down. And I don't know if you guys saw the intro of this, but I was on it. That was filmed prior to the accident, by the way. And the thing just stopped, and I just went flying through the air. And all the kids were around like, "Mister, are you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I think I got the wind knocked out of me. Give me a minute." And then I was like, I can't get up. And I was like, I can't even move my legs. This sucks. And luckily, Kat was there. Kat Kingsley. She helps me out quite often with shoots and different things. And I was like, "Kat, I think I need you to take me to the doctor." I'm like, something's wrong. And then so she tried to help me up, but my elbow was like popping out, and I was like, "What?"
Wow.
And then I couldn't move my leg. I didn't even know that my leg was broken too. Like I was like, okay, like the adrenaline was like kicking in. And she's like, "Matt," and I tried to get up, I couldn't. And then finally, I was like, "Yeah, whatever, just call stupid 911." And it's so embarrassing. And I was like, my first thought is, I am so sad that I have to wrap my shoot early for this stupid inconvenience. Like, it's true, because that's the positive side of things. Like, I don't really want to deal with reality right now, what's actually happening to my body. But anyways, no, I was in the hospital for about a week and a half. I had a great surgeon, and it took me, it took a long time to get back going, but I learned how to expand the company much further this way, actually. And so honestly, it was kind of, I don't want to say the best thing, because my elbow still hurts like all the time, but it was the kick in the pants that I needed to start letting go of control. And like how you talked about earlier of, you have to do the accounting, you have to do this, and you have to do all of that. I mean, just emailing, I couldn't even text at this point. I was all doing the speech to text recognition stuff. And I go, this is perfect. And so I had designated a couple of people to help me out while I was in the hospital. I was able to direct via FaceTime, like a video conference like we're doing now. And, I was like really worried, because I'm just like, everyone's kind of associated Salvo Image with me, but that was also kind of what I wanted to get out of that too. Like, I don't need it to be about me. Like, it's just about quality film production. And so people really stepped up. They were able to do the shoots when I couldn't do it, process the photos in the way that I liked, and edit the way I like. And we were getting it out. Unfortunately, all the money was sort of going to, not unfortunately, but as it should, the money was going to the contractors at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, it was about 4 months of no paychecks again. I thought that I was finally over it, but then boom, we ended so strong last year, and I feel that I can walk great again, and my arm is still doing okay. It's going to take, probably a couple more years, but I'm happy to be alive, and that's
like,
about it.
It's like you survived the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And, came out on the other side. So honestly, I would think that you have no fear anymore, And with that comes the ability of really trusting the people. And more importantly, what I think you're in a position to do, and I know you're already doing it, is that you're also mentoring others. You're also opening doors for others in the community that are, working with you and working for you. And I know that you mentioned Kat Kingsley, who,
Yeah.
Hi, Kat, I love you. She's one of my favorite people in the world. And Kat, is a great example of somebody who has so much potential And really, I think her being able to work directly with you and see what you're overcoming and how you're succeeding, that's an incredible gift to give to her. She's going to then, in turn, just because of the type of person that I know she is, she's going to pay that forward. And that's one of the things, the two things that really kind of keep me in check is, paying it forward, because
Yeah.
we should never, keep what we've gained. We should always find ways to share it with others and to, make this a better industry, make this a better community. And then, never overpromise and underdeliver, because once you are known for doing that, no one will believe shit that comes out of your mouth. So,
Mm-hmm.
being able to literally, and genuinely understand what you can do and then work towards being as good as you can be and better. That's what I want to see as kind of the average bar for most of our community. We're working in a lot of different ways to build the business locally, to grow. We're working with Jennifer West. We're working with several other entities, and I'll tell you right now, for anybody who is producing content, there's so much money to be had between COVID, between small business assistance. If you really start looking at what's out there, I think that you can build, or supplement your business if you haven't already done that. And I encourage you. In our newsletter, I try and put in links to various grants and opportunities, and there's a couple in there right now. And I know that we're looking to apply for some of those through the CFAA as well, so that we can put more money into the pot that will help us grow and build and do the things that we need to do. But it's you reap.
Yeah.
So you feel like I'm a spirit of cliches today, but you truly, what you give is what you get back. And so I love to represent what you're doing. So tell me, just from photography going into kind of commercials and business related content, do you have aspirations to do things of more of a narrative or documentary or any other kind of a film based?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a good question. It's funny. I get asked this a lot, like, well, Matt, you do well in this kind of arena. Imagine what you could do, like, with a feature film and, and have traditional movie theater distribution, which movie theater distribution isn't even a thing. What's normal anymore, right? So
Yeah.
basically, everything's online. And my answer kind of has been evolving, but what it is, um, if people knew how difficult it was to tell a good story in a short amount of time versus a very lengthy amount of time, you might find it very rewarding to go in more shorter format, because it's less film days, so less production costs. You can still, win awards and all these things. You can still be on TV or the movies or whatever. And so my answer is like, no, if I always want to be in the marketing of other businesses, that's my end goal. That's what I'm living right now.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I won't do films that are marketing related.
Mhm.
We actually had a documentary set to come out in April of last year, of course, at IMAX, and it's called Concrete California. And we made this documentary for the California Farmland Trust. I mean, it's a full blown, like, it tells the whole story. It's very beautiful. I think the way it's shot is beautiful. The way, and this was a whole team effort, by the way. Kat did the rough cut on that particular one, and I loved the editing on it. And so I was just so proud of this, and it's unfortunate that it was never seen yet, but I'm hoping this March we're going to have a release. We'll see what COVID does again. But that's my goal, is maybe this March instead of last year. So I do want to do movies, but I want them to always have, I want to showcase, I think the best stories are these business owners and why they are so crazy to have started the company. It all came from somewhere. I mean, maybe not with that particular person. Maybe it's like a fifth generation family owned business or something. But then that's even cooler. I want to see the struggles that their grandparents went through and how they're similar or different than today. So I love storytelling, but I do think I want to keep it more in the marketing world, just because I don't know, for some reason I feel crazy enough to do this, and I just get along with those guys and or women too. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my field for so long, and I'm way more comfortable creating that type of content. But I didn't know all of the many opportunities and the paths that you can go down in production early enough in my life to actually have a plan and know what I was doing. But I think that it's easy for me to figure out how to market and how to tell a story from a business perspective. When you work in advertising for that long, that's really what it's all about. Now we're just taking it to a higher level of proficiency and more visual and moving images and things that, at one point it was just about a static ad, and then it became more and more and more. So I think it's really fascinating that we see, what's happening in terms of distribution, not only for businesses who have these built-in platforms they can also market to. So you're also, here's the good side of this type of business. You don't have investors that are waiting to find out when they're going to get a return on their investment. Their return on their investment is that they have a marketing tool to sell their business, and their business will grow. They're not shooting a film and praying that the film gods and Rotten Tomato and audiences will love it and, raise it up to a level of visibility, on this one particular project that will, good God, make or break you.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. When I hear people just spending a crazy amount of money on making a short film because it's their passion, I don't want people to confuse that just because I'm passionate about something means that I'm going into it blindly. Okay, like, I'm passionate, but I'm also very calculated. And if I'm gonna dump, a ton of money into something, I would already know that I have distribution set for it. I know what my return on investment is going to be. I know how long it's going to take to get that back. And so, yes, you could, get really lucky and be like a Napoleon Dynamite type thing where it's submitted to Sundance and then finally it becomes a feature film a few years later. That's great. That happened, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And how many movies do we go see at the movie theater or wherever on Netflix or something, and they're crappy movies? And it's like, I just don't want my name to be associated with the crappy things. Like, yeah, I might be able to make a movie, but probably not. You're not gonna love it. It's not gonna appeal to everybody. And I like that. I like being able to appeal to my audience. And so if that means like, oh darn, my client's only going to give me $50,000 to make a 15 movie that's going to be seen by 30,000 people, I'm not seeing the downside. Like, it's a win-win for everybody. Like, and especially if I do a good job, then they come back next year, and then they come back the year after, and so and I get to make short films. And okay, maybe if that's not something that I want to do, right? Like, maybe my thing is sci-fi and I want to do a, like a Back to the Future type film. Okay, well, now I have a career that's keeping me in the media production world, keeping me fresh and sharp. And then I can take it over and make my own little short film with that money, Like, I'd much rather do that than, if I'm a little down on finances or something, I would never go drive Uber or like do another thing, because that's not that's not my industry. Like
Mhm.
like if I wanted to be the best Uber driver, I would be. But my talents, I'm just going to be like, well, it's easier for me to make films than to come up with small talk, talking to people in the back seat. That's a skill I don't have.
Yeah.
And so like, I always want to do whatever I'm doing and have it go upwards. I don't want it to like go this way and then I find my way back and then take another tangent. It's like, no, this is always my goal. Um, the tangents could be my hobbies, like,
Yeah.
oh, I met a cool person when I was out wine tasting with a client, and then now my hobby is like jet skiing on their private, thing. It's like, I love that. Like, see, that's better. Like, I like to find the adventures within work, and maybe that's a bad thing, maybe it's a good thing, but that's how I'm built.
I don't think there's a good or a bad. I think it's what you did
Yeah.
and whatever feeds you. One of the things, Diodonis has a question, and I think it just is specific to the type of content that you have, because your
Oh,
method
that's
of
cool.
distribution. So his question: how do you acquire distribution before editing or before creating your film? And in a I'll touch on this really briefly.
Yeah,
My
you probably know a little bit on that, but I have some input after you too.
Yeah, for your content, it's a different answer to the question. Before creating your film, there really is not a great way to acquire distribution because you got to have a product to prove. You definitely need to know what you're building, how you're building it, and how you're going to pitch it when you're in front of the right person. That's a whole nother area that I swear we're going to teach everybody all about pitching, because whether you're pitching yourself or you're looking for money or you're trying to get a location or you're trying to get a job, you have to know how to pitch yourself. So anyway, sidebar, we're going to focus on that together.
Well,
With distribution, with films, how it used to be is that you had a theatrical release, which was kind of your advertising, premiere, basically kickoff. And then from there, the attendance to that would dictate how many theaters you might be able to get any kind of distribution offer for, whether it's a small release or whether it's an extended release. But ultimately, the best thing that you can do is you're not going to get distribution before your film is made, unless you have some incredible contacts or you have incredible actors that can guarantee distribution, or you've got a shit ton of money that's going to be put into it that will allow you to pursue four-walling and everything that comes with that. But the best thing that you can do is to build your audience. You should be thinking about distribution before you start rolling your cameras. You should be thinking about the identity of your content and who's the audience and how are you going to reach them. And that's going to start with social media. We have a completely different animal now in the streaming distribution and how prevalent that is. Films that are coming out that would normally have theatrical release now don't have theaters to go into. So we're really doing things differently right now, and I think it's going to change a lot of things forever. Not completely, but creative narrative content is a whole different path of distribution. What Matt is doing is he is creating content for business clients who already have their platforms. They've got their social media and their websites and their method of distribution is that of a marketing message, not a film audience that you're trying to get to invest in watching that content. Am I right? Is that kind of the difference?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm gonna have a theatrical release, like with that one I was talking about earlier, they rent out. My client would rent out the IMAX, and the ticket sales would go to either paying that off or whatever. They had a really beautiful package set up where anyone who got a ticket got a popcorn and a drink, and it was really nice and VIP kind of stuff. And so they would, during like National Ag Day, Agricultural Day at the Capitol, they have a captive audience of like all these farmers and ranchers, right? And so they would have a booth there and then sell the tickets there or whatever. And then the IMAX is just right down the street. It's a cool way to kind of get your message across in a more entertainment platform rather than a marketing way. So, and you're right too about the movie side of things, unless you got some crazy connections or whatever. But we do stuff like that too. Like, I love going out and meeting people and figuring out what they do and how things kind of work in their world. And when you find that person who does work in Hollywood or who does have this type of status or something, don't just go at them and oh, I got this idea. That's the biggest turnoff. They get that all the time. You just have to kind of sort of become in with their crowd, and then after a period of time and the trust is built on both sides, then you could sort of, hey, I had this idea, and just say, if you don't want to listen to it, that's fine, because they're used to that. And keep in mind, you still want to be their friend first.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too thirsty, and so for me, I shot this movie premiere called Touching Home. This is like 2008, I think. And it was about these two identical twin baseball players, and they, out of high school, they got drafted into the MLB. And anyway, these twins, I mean, this is a true story. And I have the book, and the book's on Amazon. It's called Touching Home. Incredibly inspirational. And if you're a filmmaker, I think you should probably get this book. It is, they are baseball players, yes, but they're also filmmakers. And what I loved is they were excelling so far in their baseball career, and then some things happened along the line, and stuff with their dad. He's this alcoholic and stuff. Anyways, I was shooting them, and they had a big like open discussion. And the guy who played their father in the movie is Ed Harris. Yeah, so and this is all in Sacramento, by the way. And so I was just enamored by this conversation that these guys were having with him, and I was like, how do you get Ed Harris to be in your movie? These guys were just like everyone else, like us here in Sacramento. Like, we're all aspiring filmmakers. We're all kind of living the dream to our extent. But how do you go next level? And they have a very crazy story on how they got his attention. And so there are obscure ways of getting high-paid actors in your movies. But, I don't know if I would follow him down an alley in Sherman Oaks, California after he ate pizza with his wife. But hey, it worked for them. And, I think it just depends on how you approach people and who you are, and your intentions are not to screw them over or something.
Yeah.
That'll tend to get you pretty far in life, but it can be done. But yes, for me, I prefer to talk with the clients about distribution before the project is started. So I start with a pitch, and then they will help, modify it, because I think my client is like the producer, right? And so we kind of go back and forth, meet the director and the producer, and then finally we meet in the middle, meaning they always kind of win, right? Because they're paying the bill. And then I'm like, well, what's your audience for this? I mean, if it's a type of company that they don't really have customers come in, like foot traffic, then who is their audience? Oh, well, maybe it's like a manufacturer or something. Okay. And then so once I really dial it in on where they need their return on the investment with me to come back, once I understand where that money is coming from, I don't feel bad about quoting any number, because then I'm like, okay, I clearly understand who needs to see this and the emotions that they need to feel in order to give your company a second thought or a chance at this or that. And so it's just about really listening.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the interesting thing too is that the one thing I've learned after working with thousands of people in business is everybody in business, they really like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about their business. They're invested in that business, 1,000%. So when you do something as simple as to ask a question with genuine interest, that's all it takes to open a door. And then rather than spending the next rest of the conversation figuring out how can you say what you need to say and pitch yourself, just find ways that you can, open ideas for them as to, have you ever thought about this? Is this something you've already done? It's when you have a 15-minute window to talk to somebody and you catch them with the right questions, there's no limit to the time that you can spend with them. And that means that you're going to get the sale. So that's truly, how you're approaching anybody when it comes to money, that they want to know. They want to know what's in it for them. But more importantly, they really want to know that you care about what's in it for them. You're not just flim-flamming, trying to oversell, overpromise, so that when you underdeliver, oh, well, you can just apologize or blame it on somebody else. No, this is your reputation. You don't ever want to do that.
I look at things as even when they're paid, they're a resume to the next project, and that's good and bad, because I do put, like 1,000% into every project I do, and it takes a toll on me, but what it gets me is many years of income. And so it's like, I just have to be like, you know what, Matt, this is what people expect. I love customer service. I think that when I was 19, I worked at Nordstrom for a little bit selling shoes.
You learned from the best. I
learned from the best.
The best.
And I mean, there's so many things that stick with me from that job to this day that I'm just like, no, Matt, you know what? You may think that no one's going to notice that or this or whatever, but all my haters are going to notice it. They're gonna be phoning up my competition because all my clients are listed on my website, and they can say, oh, you see that thing that Matt did for you, how there's that little bit of that there? I could do way better. And so I'm always like thinking like that, like, it's a hard way to think, but it is a very successful way to think, because that way, if you're always putting your best foot forward, and if someone still criticizes you, I'm not perfect. I could say I tried my best, and I think people can see that genuine from you, whether you actually tried your best or like, oh, I did what I could. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And how many times have we taken our car to the mechanic, right? And you're like, oh, this little light keeps coming on or something. The window keeps doing whatever. And he goes, I don't know. Well, did you even look at it? Is like what I'm thinking. Can't you just take a look again? And but the guys who will say, I really did try, and let me show you something real quick. And he does this and he does that, and it's like, this is the problem, but we just can't. I'm already sold. He took the time, and I can tell he's a genuine mechanic at that point. Like, and if I see him doing that with other customers as well, that's a good sign. So it's just about, people want to know that you care about them in any capacity. We're humans. It's a thing. And it says on my business card, it's more important to click with people than the shutter. And that's the only reason I think success happens. I mean, there's a lot of luck and timing involved, for sure.
Yeah.
But you can be calculated in how you take your risks and how you approach people.
So in your business, are you filling every role yourself? So you're dealing with the client negotiations, you're working with the client to create content, write a script, build a brand, a concept of what this video will look like. And then you're producing, you're directing. What kind of a team do you look to bring on, and things that you want to ideally farm out? Just because in a perfect world, if you've got enough business and there's always opportunity for more, how do you kind of segregate yourself, I guess, in the future?
Yeah. Well, that accident that we spoke about earlier helped me get into that mentality more than, I used to be. And so in the past, yes, I kind of always had my hand on like every single thing, even though I might not be doing like the sound recording or like the motion graphics or even the cinematography or even the editing, but I always had a hand in it, right? And like I'd always open up the project, adjust little things or kind of tweak some stuff, whatever. But now I want to farm out everything. I do. Like I'm not getting any younger. Um, and I finally found a good way to teach people my style and how, you know, clients expect when they hire Salvo Image, the final sort of product should look. I finally learned what that style is for one. Like we all might be able to shoot something or to edit something, but you have to be conscious of like what your style really is. And so, and if you could replicate that over and over again. And so once I found out that I could replicate it, then I learned like what it was. And then I started teaching other people about like the nuances of it. And so I have about 15 people that I continually work with for different things. And so, you know, we mentioned Kat earlier, and then Melissa Hodgman has been working with me more so recently. Yeah, I know. Like, I know she doesn't want me to say this probably, but she is the best PA that I've ever worked with. Like, I know she's well more talented than just a PA. She has way more skill sets than that. She's very good at set design as well. But, you know, like when you start working with the right people, then it's easy to farm it out, right? Because you're all in it for the right reason.
Well, and you
all
can
the egos.
trust is there.
Yeah, all the egos are just on the table. There's nothing really that we need to work with, and it just works. And so I do want to expand my team quite a bit more. We have a crazy 2021 ahead of us, and I really want to start getting out of a lot of the on-set production stuff that I'm involved with and just focus more on like the client acquisition side of things. I feel that now that we have a really great portfolio to show people, and I wish I could post more on social media, but a lot of this is like internal company stuff that they're not super happy with me sharing. But I am looking for editors, people who work in Premiere, ideally, because I work in Premiere and I could open it up. We just built a crazy high-end server here at Salvo Image to where now we can access all these files remotely from anywhere in the world, being able to download the files. I can give access to certain directories to different people. We have an insane amount of storage finally, where we can store like 8K video like no one in Sacramento can. So I could guarantee that. But I think the people I need, I love working with just anyone who wants to learn something, because I kind of know a lot of the nuances of things, but if you can pick up things quickly, like especially in Premiere and After Effects and Photoshop and in Lightroom, I could use help with graphic artists, people to help edit images. I created, you know, my own presets and different things in Lightroom. So it's all, I think, pretty easy to move to somebody. But yeah, we're growing. I've learned the hard way about working with people who don't mesh well with my personality, or just maybe take advantage, or maybe it just wasn't a good fit. Whatever it is, I've learned finally, and I've heard that's a big struggle for other business owners too, finding the right people to work with that could really make or break your company. I mean, they're going out and representing you. So, you know, how do you have that quality control? But how do you do it in a way that doesn't stifle their creativity? And so I think I found a pretty good method that seems to be working for right now, but you know, it could change next year and be even better.
Yeah. No, I can see opportunities for you to grow and to bring a lot of people, you know, into, again, it's that level of professionalism that if you're really good and you haven't, you know, stepped off the pier completely, maybe it's a good opportunity to, you know, to do so. How can people contact you? What information do you prefer? if you want someone to reach out to you and find out more about,
Yeah.
you have a time to talk or whatever.
Yeah, just support@salvoimage.com is a great email to reach me. Support@salvoimage.com, and that will help because I need so many different types of people. So don't be afraid. Like if you just want to act and you want to do it part time. I'm not asking like you got to be. This is your end all career by working with me. It's this could be freelance type stuff, anywhere from acting to editing to makeup and.
Do you do your own casting, or do you work with casting agents locally?
I've kind of been doing my own casting for a few years, and then I every now and then will use a casting director. But I found that it seems just like through Facebook, when you have enough people watching and they're all kind of in that production world, whenever I seem to post something, usually it'll get shared to whoever it needs to go to find the right person. So I am actually in the near future going to be looking for about 10 actors for a big project I'm working on. So yeah, I just say keep watching it, or if you want, email me, and I could let you in on those things too.
Yeah. And please make sure that you share anything like that with us, and we can pop it in the newsletter. So the CFAA newsletter is another way of just, finding information about opportunities, posting information about your opportunities, whatever the case may be. It is your communication tool as members of the community. And we want to make sure that, there's at least one place, you can put all of that outside of your own social media.
Yeah, you guys are already helpful. I mean, clearly, Lori, that most of the people I work with on my team came from CFAA. So, it's a quality group, and I trust you guys. I think you have a nice variety of people always engaged, because you have everyone from just starting out to like your Emmy award-winning people. Like you're a full gamut.
Yeah. It's something, it makes me really proud when I see people in the community that connect through the CFAA and that explore what they can do together. And Kat and Melissa and you, each one of you have your own reputations that have just continued to grow and grow and grow. And that's just something that I'm very proud of. It makes me feel better to know that, the connections are being made and you're all kind of going off on your own and exploring what you can do together. And when you can do cool stuff together, that's really just, that's what we're all about. I definitely think you have some great angles when it comes to teaching a process, not only based on people that you want to hire and show them how to do the job, but also really just approaching the business side of this. So I know we talked briefly about that in another call, where we want to come up with some different educational platforms that can help everybody, not only in the basics of, below the line positions and above the line positions and different things that you can do to fit in and know what, your niche is personally, but also, creating content for business and setting up your own internal business. Because again, it's really great to create content. And a lot of times you have a lot of passion as a creative person. What a lot of creative people that I work with don't have, unfortunately, is 2 cents to give about the business side of the production business. And so, finding ways that we can assist in teaching that, I think you have some really good angles that we can tap into and work on together. So this is not the last conversation that we will have. I definitely want everybody to keep your eye on Matt, friend him, and reach out. Some of you may already be his friend. Share that he's looking for people in all these different capacities. I would rather see his doors blown off because he gets so much response from people who, have what he's looking for. So if we can fill his email inbox with, that kind of feedback and that kind of interest, that would be great. In the meantime, I think unless there's any other questions or something that people, we've got a lot of hi and checking in and yay, and they're so proud of you.
Great.
You
That's nice.
jump on that recorded version and kind of see who is here, but we've, been able to reach our local audience, and with the help of the inner tubes, now we're going to be able to put it out and share your information even further. So we'll see where it comes from. We should think of the code. If you're responding, to work opportunities through this, you must say,
something about a job in the title.
You must CFAA rocks or something as a little password that'll get you in the door.
Every time you say that, Lori gets 10 cents. So
that's so.
No, this is great. I think that people, if you just take it seriously, like it is a business, and I know it could get scary. There's a lot of, as creatives, there's a lot of stuff with the numbers that could look scary. And when you start looking at like cash flow and all these different numbers in your QuickBook accounts, and you're like, well, I should have money, but I don't. What does this mean, or something? It's just temporary. The fear is temporary because, like I said earlier, there are resources out there that will teach that part to you. You can meet up with a rep free. It's free. It's grant funded, so you don't have to pay anything. Find those type of resources like the SBDC, because it makes your career possible. If you are not the best at paying things on time, if you procrastinate or do something, they hold you accountable. And so that allows you to focus on what you do best. And that's just being the best at whatever you do, whatever position you're in, if this is the way you go. Hey, and if you don't want to do that as a full-time career, that's cool. Just get a sole proprietor's license and a general liability insurance policy, and we can still work together. You'd be a contractor, and it's great. So I think the thing is hey, don't give up. I mean, if you're right there and you think that your skills are good enough because people keep telling you they are, well, then maybe it's time to listen to them and make the calculated risk, but jump ship.
Absolutely. And when you found the Small Business Development Center, thank you, Steve. Steve just typed the same thing I did. No better than to even stick my fingers in the pie. He's got it handled. So on the working with the SBDC, so that's not specific to nonprofits. It's specific to any type of business, correct? And then
anything.
Fee, is there a subscription? How does that work?
Nope, it's all zero. It's all zero. I mean, back in the day when they had classes and stuff, that's how I found out about it. I went to some class in Rockland. I got some email because I had signed up my fictitious name thing through the state. And so, you get a bunch of these business emails. And one thing popped out to me, how to write a good business plan. And so I really wanted that because I was, like I said, trying to find my niche. And I thought in the process of writing this, I will find it. And so, I had this crazy 30-page, 10-year business plan. And we're actually 2 years ahead of schedule, which is weird to say. And so I thought, when you write something out, or, when you put it in the universe, or however you want to say it or do it, to me, that's accountability. If I said, Lori, I'm going to do this next year, mark my words. Well, if I don't, you're not going to hold it against me, but maybe my words aren't quite as meaningful after that. And so when you type it out, or when you say it and you do it, then it's well, that's success. I don't care if it was making $200 in 1 year. If that's what you wanted to make and that was your goal and you wrote it down and you did it, good. On to the next year. What's your year 2 look like? And then so you just kind of build from that and kind of where you want to go and everything. And so they also have connections too on putting you together with like banks if you need a small business loan. Maybe you want to start up a restaurant soon or something. They have that kind of facility too. But I think for someone in our field, like as creatives, and especially as seeing kind of the problem in Sacramento is everyone's working for free. You know, I always say don't work for free. Even if you're just learning your camera or whatever, ask your friend, hey, I'll shoot your baby pictures, but I mean, could you give me like $50 for the software so I can edit them like really well?
Yeah.
That's a good way to overcome the I'm not good enough mentality. And still, when someone pays you something, even if it's a dollar, they have skin in the game. And so the transaction is very important. So I always say charge something. And even if it's like a trade where it's like lunch or something to show that, I mean, man, I just spent, $1,800 on this camera and lens, it's my very first one. And now I'm shooting all these pictures for free. Well, think about it. Everything costs money. I mean, you got the storage for these pictures on your hard drive. It doesn't start off like a lot, but then who knows, 10 years later, you have a full-blown server, right? And so, like, keep in mind, like, all these weird little costs, your business license insurance, or insurance, your business license, your computer, the space at home, all these things are money for an expensive hobby. Like, I don't know. Like, I think we need to, and that's what the SBDC, that's what my business coach, Casey Field, recommends. Like, know your value, know your worth. Your time is worth something, whether you're learning or not. Like, your time is worth something.
Not to mention the time that you've invested in learning your craft. It's not just in doing the job. It's the fact that you have, so much time invested in getting to know what it takes and how to do it and where to go. And, there is definite value in that. And I'm not adverse to people working for free.
Well, yeah.
If you love a project, if you love the people that are on a project, if you see that there's some benefit to you that comes from working in that environment, there's a lot of different reasons. We have all worked for free, and there's nothing.
That's true.
You don't want to be known for working for free. And I will tell you this, and I mentioned this to you the other day, the people that are the best in the business that I know charge full rate. You don't get any deals. I mean, and to be aware of doing that, and then knowing that you're getting the best and that you're paying for it and it's worth it, that's a pretty good end of the day.
It is a good end of the day. And with the, working for free, you're right. Especially if you already have a job that's paying you something to feed your family. I think, when I say that is like, I wouldn't just quit my job of 10 years and all the benefits associated with it if, I was going to just work for free by, working on movie sets with my friends or taking pictures for my friends. Mm-hmm. Like, at that point, I had to make money to feed my family. And so, like, that's kind of who I'm talking about, because I do know there are some people out there who have families and are like, I'm just going to do it because this is my passion and, God will provide. And it's like, yeah, well, be smart though. Like, if you are, that's great, but charge your friends at that point is what I'm saying, because you got to eat somehow.
Yeah, truly. I just think everybody needs to understand that it's within you to do more and to be the best. And you just have to be committed to that and continue to find ways to pay it forward, and it will come back to you. I have seen connections that, took 10 years to really bring a reward, but when it happened, it's best of everything. So you never know when it's going to, come back. You don't do things because of what you're going to get. You just kind of have to have faith that when you're doing the right thing, it will always come back to you, and you will find the success. And like Matt, you're going to find yourself in a whole different situation where now you have a problem because you got to hire more people because you're so busy and you're making so much money that you're, buying Ferraris and Maseratis and.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, well, stranger things have happened. I guess we'll say that.
Things have happened. So I want to thank you for spending your time with us and sharing a little bit about you. Like I said, we want to just make sure everybody in this community knows that there are always people that you can go to when you have questions. There are always people that you can go to if you're looking for, how did you do this? What was your best recommendation for this? It's amazing what doors can open when you ask the right people. Just make sure you're asking the right people.
Yeah, trust your gut. Trust your gut. If you are excited about something, but the person that you're pitching isn't, don't keep pushing it. Just gracefully go back and, find a new avenue or drop it all together and talk about the weather.
Yeah.
That's safe.
Exactly. So thank you. We're going to wrap it. And again, we've got the CFAA. You can go to the website. You can learn about the upcoming programs we have coming onto the webcast. You can learn about everything else that we have happening. And, as we start going from pre-COVID to COVID to post-COVID, we're certainly hoping that we can open up and do things in real time. But, in the meantime, this is great because you do have a huge community of really talented people in Sacramento that are here to ensure that our entire community continues to improve and grow and really become strong so that we've got too much work to handle. That'd be a great problem to have.
Yeah, and there's so much. I might have competitors, yes, but at the same time, they do their own thing. I do my own thing. I saw Diodonis. He popped up real quick. I want to give him a shout out. He's living his dream. I'm real proud of that guy. And so
all of them, they're working like crazy. They're working nonstop, and that doesn't happen if you suck at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You get the opportunity, make the most of it, and then that door will open and that snowball starts rolling. Seen it happen many times, so it can happen. Yeah, it can happen to you too. I think when you don't expect it, when you don't feel like you are owed it, it's a whole different, appreciation for it when it finally does happen. So, yeah,
I still wake up every day and I'm just like, really, did it? Am I still in business? This is great. Like, I can't believe that it, and like you said, for me, it actually hit when I was in the hospital, when I'm feeling at the lowest part of my life. And so it's kind of like, don't be so blind to, don't see the things that are right in front of your face. Like, be susceptible to everything because you don't know when one little turn is going to turn into something magical. It really is true.
Truly. Well, again, every conversation we have, I feel like more and more that we can just keep going and going and going.
I know. We can cut it for the other people, though.
So thanks, everybody else, for joining us. Thank you, Matt. We will definitely end this up and then go into checking in with you guys on the next great thing to come. In the meantime, watch for the newsletter, trying to come back with that as regularly as we can. But there is a lot of activity that's ramping up right now. So pay attention because sometimes it comes and goes before you even have time to think twice. So watch for the newsletter. And if you are not already getting it, go to our website. You can click a button to add me to the newsletter. It doesn't cost you anything. And then you can be a part of the ongoing conversation as well. So thank you. Hi to everybody who is there. I miss you all. And
I wish I could see all of you in person, hopefully one day soon.
I know. I keep threatening to do a big Zoom call just so that everybody can see each other's faces, and it's a whole kind of communication. So we may do a game night or something silly. So yeah. Tip your waitress, as Adam Weber says, drive carefully, drive home carefully.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, CFAA.